On this slide and on the next one, you will see some of the potential sites for retail and mixed-use development along the corridor that we have identified. These sites have been selected based on their current occupancy status, that is either a vacant parcel or an unoccupied building, as well as a potential to contribute towards the overall vision of Main Street. The identified potential uses are based on a retail gap analysis data. You can pause the video now to take a closer look at these sites. On this slide and on the next one, you will see some of the potential sites for housing development along the corridor. These sites have been selected based on their current occupancy status, that is either a vacant parcel or an unoccupied building, as well as a potential to contribute towards the overall vision for Main Street. You can now pause the video to take a closer look at these slides. The character of housing on Main Street is intended to maintain a visible connection with the corridor. All of the identified products, that is townhomes, apartments, or single-family housing, are expected to have on-street connections and a human-scale built environment. Such developments on Main Street settings are able to provide a good amount of density, which helps with supporting local businesses as well as contributing towards the vibrancy of the corridor. They also provide eyes on the street, which ensures that corridor is looked after by the residents living near it.
Also on the corridor scale, it is key to provide transitions as indicators for motorists when they arrive at or near Main Street. Someone traveling west on Illinois 177/Main Street is barely made aware of the entry to Muscuda when they approach Mine Road. You can see in these images the rural character to the east, where the road transitions to 55 miles per hour, as opposed to the urban transition to the west, where the speed is reduced to 30 miles per hour as you enter town. There is one Muscuda sign, as well as an historic Main Street sign, but no other indication. The addition of gateway signage, as well as physical improvements to the road to more narrow the space, will encourage motorists to go the correct speed and be more aware as they enter Main Street. Another area to consider adding the gateway treatment as well as physical roadway improvements is at the location of Harnett and Route 4, just north of Main Street. In these views, you can see the rural transition looking north, where just north of this photo, the speed limit transitions to 55 miles per hour, and the lot usage is set back more from the road with minimal trees along the roadway. As you approach Main Street looking south, you can see the speed limit drops to 30 miles per hour. Lot usage is a little closer to the roadway and trees line the street. This is a good start at indicating the transition, but more defined features at this location will help that transition as well. These are two examples of monument treatments in St. Louis. Muscuda should consider monument signage coupled with physical roadway improvements at these key entry points we just discussed to Main Street. The image on the left is near the entry to Forest Park and the St. Louis Zoo. It is a transition between the interstate off-ramp and an arterial road with the park entrance. It helps alert motorists to the change in character of the road upon entry. It can also be used for branding. Another example is seen here in the Grove in St. Louis. The monument sign is used to transition from an arterial roadway to a more neighborhood scale business district. Church and State Streets are good streets to help connect people to Main Street, given that Main Street is constrained for spaces between all of the competing uses, such as driving, walking, and parking. Clearly defining parking and better connecting pedestrian traffic from these side streets to Main Street will help get more people onto Main. Additionally, there is not enough space on Main Street for a dedicated bike facility. Developing Church Street as a bicycle boulevard is ideal given the slower speeds and lower amount of vehicular traffic on Church Street. The limited amount of stop signs are also good for people cycling to not stop unnecessarily at every intersection. Once cyclists can safely access downtown via Church, they can park their bike and walk to Main Street. Bicycle boulevards are affordable treatments for filling out a local bike network.
Public parking signs are the ideal way to direct visitors to the nearest public parking lot. Once they are ready to proceed on foot, a variety of signage types is necessary. This includes maps and generic directional signage, which are permanent features and paint a broad picture of nearby amenities. Temporary signs, like the one shown on the right, can be an affordable and regularly updated option, which encourages visitors to continue their walk, linger, and hopefully spend more time downtown. Within Muscuda is an existing inventory of murals and sculptures. The proposed landscape and pedestrian improvements along Main Street may be the ideal opportunity to create places for viewing public sculpture. When placed at a regular frequency, this art collection can be promoted to visitors as an outdoor gallery or art walk. Improvements along Pig Creek may follow a similar approach, but instead utilize historic relics and signage to create an outdoor history walk. This walk can be expanded to travel south through what was once Lincoln Lake and further to Silver Creek Preserve. At the intersection of both proposed walks is the Historical Society Museum. The group of volunteers who run the Historical Society are the ideal partner in promoting and distributing information regarding the art and history walks.
Now, as we move down to land use from a corridor scale, looking at at Main Street from Mine Road to 6th Street, we find that the study area corridor breaks down into three segments. The west segment, which really runs from 1st Street to 6th Street, the central segment from Independence to 1st Street, and the east segment from Mine Road to Independence. These segments all share characteristics, but they also are different, and there are different opportunities that are presented in each one. We'll start from the west. The west segment really feels primarily residential, and you see this when you walk along the street. There are a lot of houses along the street. This wonderful historic apartment building from 1857 is in this segment, but there's some commercial as well. The museum is a very important central anchor and a unique central anchor and resource as well. And Pig Creek runs right down the middle of it, providing an environmental feature right in the middle of this part of the street. Generally, we think that this central area presents a really important opportunity, as we'll see in a couple of minutes. But there are some commercial vacancies to fill up, some sites along Church Street that are really not very efficiently used. And so as we look at more detailed planning, we think about how can we capitalize on these assets and improve things that maybe don't work quite so well. The central area is the primary commercial core of our study area. This is where most of the stores or retail shops are located, as well as restaurants and other features. With the exception of the mural building, the scale of this part of our study area is primarily 1- and 2-story buildings. One of the wonderful buildings on it is the one in this photograph, the Ace Hardware building. But there are others, and many of these date from the 19th century. A particularly important opportunity here that I'm sure many of you have looked at is the mill site and what's going on that site and what it could be. And that will be, as you'll see in a minute, a focus of our work as well. Then as we move to the east, mislabeled central here, you'll see that we move into a much more residential scale of the neighborhood. where there are a few offices and one retail building, but for the most part, these areas are housing related. An important possibility here is the wonderful landmark Holy Childhood Church, which is separated from the street by a parking lot. And we have an idea that we think is worth considering that will do a better job of connecting this wonderful church to Main Street and to our immediate study area. So then when we move to the parts of this study area that really kick out as key opportunities and that we want to study in a lot more detail, on the west side, we think that that's really the museum and the Creek corridor. Generally, everything from Second Street to the museum. In our central core corridor, the Railway Street intersection seems very important. That's where City Hall is, and the Mural Building, and the Mill, and the existing City Hall Park. All provide really interesting opportunities for creating an anchor in our overall corridor. The Jefferson Street intersection, now under construction, is also very important and is the primary way in which people enter the city. And then finally, as we move toward the east, we think that the John Street corridor, including the John Street intersection, the parking lot of Holy Childhood, and possible opportunities to the south of that block, also present some interesting possibilities that are well worth study.